Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about HDMI and Ethernet cables and routers.
Exciting.
We'd like to thank Rachel Price for liking and sharing the podcast. It wasn't until the early 1960s that people started talking about creating something like the internet.
In like science fiction novels?
And it wasn't until the 80s when Sir Timothy John Berners-Lee from the UK invented the World Wide Web.
Thank you, Sir Timothy.
Absolutely. And then so this is very interesting. In 1948, John Walson owned an appliance store, and he wanted to get better reception for the TVs he was trying to sell inside his store. So he climbed up a utility pole next to his store, and he attached this big antenna, and he ran coax cable into a booster into his store so that his TVs would get a very bright, clear picture. And people just fell in love with the reception he was getting in his store. So what he decided to do is he ran coax from his store to a bunch of his neighbors, and he started charging them $2 a month.
Wow. The first cable company?
There it is. So that's the first concept of commercializing this cable thing, man.
In the past, you really only had to think about cables and wires when you were setting up a surround system.
Right.
And now the whole world's changed.
Right.
You know, with your home theaters.
With routers and internet.
And gaming systems.
Right. Yeah, and gaming on your computer.
Right.
You need speed, man.
Yeah.
So it's important you know about the cables.
Right.
And then if you're thinking about setting up, in the future, if you're going to have a smart TV or an internet TV or a surround sound, maybe like a home theater, it's important if you're doing drywall or remodeling a home that you plan for this, because it sure makes it easier.
Right, if everything's behind the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the last houses I bought, it was a split level, and downstairs it was all old paneling, and so I tore off everything, man, and I took out everything off the ceiling, and I actually built a little area in the back of the room where I created some shelving and drywalled it all off so I could put my audio and video equipment there, and then run cables to the other side of the room where I was going to have the TV. And so I buried all of this in the wall early, and I kind of went overboard. I went overkill because I didn't know exactly what I was going to have, but it was nice to have everything. And then what I did was I took pictures of everything, so I knew exactly where the wires were behind the wall. So in the future, if I was ever going to be doing anything, any construction, I knew right where my wires are. And it was nice. So I eventually, when can't remember what it was, Twitter here in the Chicago area went out of business, I went and bought some really nice equipment which I could never afford before, and then I had all this wiring that I connected to, so it was really nice to have it in the wall already while I was doing it. So it's nice to plan ahead. The most popular cable now when you're connecting devices to your TV is an HDMI cable, and this is high definition multimedia interface.
So much simpler than what it was before.
Right, the old RCA or VGA cables that you would use.
So my dad, a couple of weeks ago, he got a new cable box because they made him upgrade. He still has a VCR attached to his TV, and he still has a DVD player, and all that was through the old cable box. So all of these cables, it was such a nightmare. And of course, he's like, will you help me with it? And I had to do it. He couldn't even hold the flashlight so I could see what's going on. It was a mess. I had unhooked everything, and I had bought him, back when he first got his first HD TV, I had got him an HDMI cable, and it cost like $80 at the time.
Back then,
huge.
Right.
Now with the new cable box, they give you one for free
in
it, and I'm like,
give them away.
What? This is so cool. So anyway, so I matched all the colors for all of his stupid, stuff for the VCR into the back of the new cable box. Turn on the television, and it's this loud buzzing sound that and we couldn't get it to stop. So he calls the cable company. They're like, there's nothing we could do. It's your TV. It's not the cable box. So he, of course, throws a fit. So they said it was just because the new cable box, all you need is the HDMI cable. So if you're going to hook in your VCR to your TV, you have to do a direct connection from your TV to the VCR, not through the cable box anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess there wouldn't. Well, there wouldn't.
Because who has a VCR?
Right. Well, your dad.
Well, yeah. He uses it, once every 3 years.
Well, it's wild now that HDMI has become the standard. So they say that over 1,600 of the top manufacturers are incorporating HDMI as their connection of choice. So whether it's like Blu-ray, laptop, camcorders, especially the gaming systems,
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's all HDMI. And there's 4 types of HDMI cables.
Which I wasn't aware of this at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have standard speed, you have standard speed with Ethernet, high speed, and then high speed with Ethernet. Your standard speed is going to handle up to 1080i. Your high speed can handle 1080p, and then up to 4K, like these 4K TVs
Right.
or 3D TVs.
Ooh, space age.
So that's high speed HDMI. For these new TVs, 1080i is 1080 interlaced, and then 1080p is progressive. And we'll probably talk about this more in a future episode.
Right.
We'll kind of do one episode, kind of a buying guide for all the new TVs. But that 1080p is going to give you a much sharper image with fast motion. And sometimes they call it full HD or true HD. And the pros say that you can really see a difference once you get into a 42-inch TV or larger. So you really want to make sure that you're matching the correct cable so that you're getting the full look of that TV. And HDMI cable with Ethernet will allow you to connect your devices like a gaming console and not have to have an additional Ethernet cable to connect to the internet.
Oh, that's cool.
So everything is integrated in one cable.
Nice. There's not much of a price difference, is there?
Exactly. And that's why I would say the goof-proof choice would be just get high-speed HDMI, and it's going to handle all the current technology. And then if you think that any of these devices that you're going to be connecting to your TV might connect to the internet, I would just get the high-speed Ethernet cable,
Right.
and you're done. And you're not going to have an extra cable going to any of these devices. All of your high-speed HDMI cables are almost identical with their performance, except for cables that are longer than 15 feet.
That's interesting.
Once you get longer than 15 feet, you need thicker wires. They have to put more shielding in it to reduce the resistance and then to keep the bandwidth high. If it's high speed, whether it's low cost or high cost, it's going to deliver an HD signal up to 4K.
Okay.
So you don't have to spend extra money on high cost cables, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So you can go shopping for an HDMI cable and just pick it by price.
Right.
Because you know it's going to give you that same HD signal. And then for long lengths of HDMI cable, you can get this, it's called Redmere technology. So it's REDMERE. And this is lengths from 15 feet to 60 feet about.
Wow.
And they put a chip in this. It's embedded in the display end of the cable at the plug.
Right.
And this is going to boost and equalize the data. So you can get and it's amazing how thin these cables are compared to something where they don't have the chip, they have to have just thicker wires.
Right.
So this is in-wall rated too. So, and this also, it depends on where you put it. So you need to make sure that you put the chip side in the display end of the cable. Otherwise it's not going to work, and you know you got it on backwards. But if you're putting it behind your wall, you need to make sure that you orient it properly. And there's no such thing as an HDMI 2.0 cable or 1.4 or 4K. You'll see a lot of manufacturers.
Right, I saw that.
You have to pay a premium for those cables. So it's the chip inside your TV or your device that makes it 2.0 or 4K. So a high-speed cable is going to work with all devices up to 4K. When you're setting up a basic home theater, you want to know your TV and how many different HDMI plugs it has or how many ports.
Right.
So you're going to just plug each device directly into the TV. But if you have a limited amount of ports, you can use an HDMI switch. And so you have one cable coming from the switch to the back of the TV, and then you're going to plug all your devices into the switch. And
I didn't know that.
And then you can alternate between them, so that
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you have maybe the last generation TVs that don't have as many ports. In AV receivers, you can plug multiple devices into the receiver and then control your devices through your AV receiver.
Basic.
So that's nice. So if you've got like an AV stand underneath your TV, you can plug your, everything right into that, which is convenient. If you need to run HDMI cable through walls and floors and ceilings, the most common plug size is going to be 7/8, or a 7/8 hole will allow the plug to fit through. And then for TVs that are fitting tight against a wall, you should really get a 90-degree or a swivel HDMI coupling. and this is going to prevent damage to your cable from trying to bend it tight and fit behind the TV.
Well, when I removed my dad's old HDMI cable, the plug was bent, like almost at a
terrible.
90-degree angle.
Not good. And a lot of the manufacturers, they're putting them on the side, or it'll be stepped in back, so it's kind of coming in at an angle flat off the side rather than straight into the back. For a wired connection from your TV to the internet, or connecting your computer to the internet from an internet router, you're going to be using an Ethernet cable, and it's going to have an RJ45 socket. So this kind of looks like a phone socket, except big.
Yes.
The standard Ethernet classes are now Cat 5, Cat 5e, Cat 6, and Cat 6a. So category. Cat's short for category. And Cat 5 can handle 100 megabits per second. If you jump up to Category 5 with the little E, so for enhanced, it can handle up to 1,000 megabits per second. So it jumps from 100 to 1,000.
Wow.
And then Cat 6 is kind of the new standard for construction, and this is going to allow 10 gigabits. And it has much less interference. It has a much cleaner signal. When you jump up to Cat 6a, and that A is for augmented, it has even less interference, and it allows twice the amount of data to go through it.
Did you know there was Cat 6 cables?
No.
I didn't. I was shocked.
Yeah, this is all new. Like, that's all we ever sold was Cat 5. So if you're running Ethernet cable through your home, most pros are now recommending that you use Cat 6 cable. It's going to handle high-speed data. And more important is the data between computers. If you have a home network, and it's definitely the best connection for gaming speed, I would say if you're running Ethernet, get Cat 6. If you're thinking about picking up an internet TV, you could either connect with the Ethernet cable or a wireless connection. But if you're streaming movies, if there's a lot of people using the Wi-Fi in your house, you're going to get your best reception with the Ethernet cable. And it's going to go from the Ethernet port to the internet router, and it's the LAN port, and that's for your local area network port. So that's going to take that RJ45 socket right into it. So you're going to see either, sometimes it'll be called a LAN port, LAN, Ethernet port, or it's going to be called network connection. And now some devices and gaming systems, they're going to have a port that says HEC.
What does that stand for?
For HDMI Ethernet channel.
For Christmas this year, my sister and I got my mom a tablet, and then we got her a Wi-Fi wireless router, which is nice. I enjoy that a lot when I'm there. So my sister set this all up for them.
I love those kind of gifts.
Yeah, it's good for you, good for me. So my sister set this all up for them during Christmas, and so she's now the IT person that my mom calls for all this stuff. So I'm very thankful. Yes. So the cable went down. So of course my mom blames it on the wireless router. So she calls my sister and she calls the cable company. So she's got her cell phone on one ear with my sister on it. She's yelling at the cable guy on the other end, and so
a lot of yelling at your house.
Yeah, you have no idea. So she's explaining this to the cable guy, and she's just like, "It's the blue cord." And so my sister's like cracking up on the other line going, "Mom, he doesn't know what color, cable, Ethernet cable you have." But she's, well, why doesn't he know? It's the blue cord. The blue cord's plugged in. There's a green cord and there's a blue cord. So you have to keep up with technology. So it's a good thing we're doing the podcast so we stay current.
Absolutely.
I've had a lot of stories today, haven't I?
Yes.
It's a good thing my parents don't listen to this because they'd probably never speak to me again.
Well, you'd be taking off the duties for doing projects around the house.
Or given more.
One thing you have to be careful of when you're running Ethernet Cat 6 is it's more delicate than earlier versions. So a lot of the pros are saying that they've seen a lot of damage from tight zip ties.
Really?
The professionals are recommending the thicker Velcro straps. They're kind of soft.
Right.
And you don't want to make tight bends in corners and also at wall jacks when you're connecting them. You want to just make sure that you're not putting a tight bend in the Category 6. If you want a wireless connection to your internet or your computer or any of your devices, you're going to be using a router. So there's been a lot of changes the last few years to all these wireless protocols.
Right.
So all the different rules and regulations for sending and receiving data. And it is pretty confusing.
Yeah.
All the different bandwidths and all the different channels. To make it simple, the newest class of Wi-Fi routers use this 802.11 AC, and that's what you're really looking for, is this AC technology. So this is dual band, so there's actually 2 radio transmitters inside your router, and all AC routers are dual band. They operate in the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz frequency. You can also get a tri-band. They're a lot more expensive. They actually have 3 radios in there, so it's even better. You have 2 radios that are putting out 5 gigahertz. 5 gigahertz are for all the newer devices, and 2.4 are for all the older devices. But this 802.11 AC is going to support up to a gigabit speed. So if you're picking something, it's kind of the goof-proof way to do some shopping. And this is also going to give you the best range, the best coverage, and a good quality router is probably going to run you around $200.
Really?
There's a couple models that are just over $100, but in general, to get something that, especially if you have a larger home, you're going to want something.
Well, there's nothing more frustrating than you go into an area of your house and there's no...
It drops out, no signal area. It takes forever to download anything, for streaming anything.
When we were doing the research on the routers, there are a lot of different categories. And in those categories, there's a lot of different classifications. It can be very confusing.
Absolutely.
But what we did here is the top rated for the best coverage.
So TP, and it's just capital T, capital P, Link Archer C7. This is an AC 1750. It was rated very high by a lot of the different sites online. Netgear Nighthawk AC 1900. ASUS RT AC87U and 8788U were both rated very high. The Linksys WRT AC1200 and the Linksys E2500 dual band were rated very high. Netgear N750 dual band and TP Link TLWR841 N300. These were the best rated.
That took a lot of restraint for me not to yell out some numbers. I just want you to know that.
When you're plugging in your TV or any of your electronic equipment, all these devices, you want to make sure that you're using a good quality surge protector. And a good surge protector is rated over 1,000 joules. One that's excellent is rated over 2,000 joules. And a joule is just a measurement of energy.
As we all know from our podcast on surge protectors and extension cords.
And it should have an indicator light for ground and protected. It should say tested to comply with UL 1449, and it should have a clamping rate of 400 or less. And you want it approved by UL or ETL or CSA. These are all independent testing agencies. If you have your TV, your stereo, your computer, you might want noise filtration, but it's not as critical as just surge protection, because there's about 100 small spikes a day over 120 volts in everybody's home, and so this pounding is going to shorten the life of your electronic equipment. And then over time, whatever device they use to protect against surge, because there's 2 or 3 different things they use to absorb and distribute these surges. So, but the key thing is most of them are going to absorb and take anything over 120 volts and send it to the ground wire. And so you need to make sure that your outlet is grounded. So it's nice if you have a surge suppressor that when you plug it in, it has a little indicator light that tells you that you do have a grounded outlet. And then you have an indicator light that says it's protected. Because like when I took training for the surge suppressor, the manufacturer said these all fail. I don't care how expensive your surge suppressor is, over time they all fail. That indicator light's going to go out, and then all you have is a power strip. So
this is something you should be looking at. Where when I was changing out the cable box for my dad, their surge protector, it didn't even light up. And he's like, it's fine. I'm like, no,
it's
not.
Electric through,
way to go, Dad.
But it's not protecting, So it is. So a great routine. We talk about some of these routines. Something nice to do every 30 days is take just a quick peek at your surge protector, and you know whether all your electronic equipment is being protected. If you plan on putting a flat screen TV on your wall and having underneath it an AV stand for your other equipment, you can get a couple of different kits. So Wire Molds, this is part of the Legrand company, they have this kit called a flat screen TV cord cover kit. And so this is basically a channel that hides your cords on the wall. It's real flat and wide. you screw this plastic base into the wall, you put together all of your cables, and then you clip on this cover, and you can paint this.
Oh, nice.
So it's real nice. So it really disappears underneath. So you're going to slide it behind your TV, and then it's going to go down behind the stand. And so
I never understood hanging your TV on the wall and just having the cords hang there. I'm like, what's the point?
That's wild. And then Legrand also has a kit called In-Wall Cord and Cable Power Kit. So this is if you want it to completely disappear and have your cords behind the wall. And this is designed for this. So this kit comes with a hole saw, and it's pretty cool. So they've got a hand kit, so you can actually create the hole by hand through drywall, or you can connect it to a drill. And it has 2 plastic boxes. So one is located behind the TV. It has an electrical plug and an opening that you're going to run your cables through. And then you have a second box that's going to be hidden behind your AV stand, and that's going to plug. So they supply this 6-foot power cord. So you're going to go from an outlet. You're going to use this cord they give you, plug into this bottom device. The electric is going to be pushed up behind the wall, and then you plug your TV into it.
Oh, cool.
So it's just it comes with a fish, so that you can pull your wire and cables through. So just a very nice system. And then if you decide to have surround sound and speakers on your wall, you can get these self-adhesive speaker wires. They're flat, and you peel off the back. They stick to the wall, and you can paint them.
Really?
Monster Cable also has their Monster Super Flat Speaker Wire, and it's paintable.
Wow. Fancy. Do you have anything else to add?
If you're going to be putting in HDMI cables, I would always just get high speed. If you're thinking about adding devices that are going to talk to the internet, get high speed with internet.
That's what I would suggest.
There you go. Goof proof. If you're getting Ethernet cable, just get Cat 6. For routers, look for 802.11 AC. It's the best technology now. And get a surge protector.
Nice.
2,000 joules.
So this is probably a podcast we'll do like every couple of years because the technology changes.
Yeah, it's fun.
Let's wrap this up.
You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can download our book, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, Book 2, on Amazon.
And leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well. You
can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.